You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 36, How the Wise Woman Built Her House. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, my friends. So glad you're here today. I hope all is well with you and you're feeling good about moving into spring. Spring always feels like a new beginning to me, even though I actually like winter. I think it's the seed catalogs I get in the mail. The idea of growing something new that I'll lovingly nurture until I let it die in the summer because I'd rather die than go outside when it's 100 degrees. This is a lifelong gardening problem I have. Back on track. Have you started to leverage the power of hormesis in your life? Did you at least try 8 seconds of a cold water directed at your face, neck, and chest at the end of your shower? It makes you feel alive. Today, we're going to have a quick chat about something that really struck me in a different way the other day. It has helped cement a concept in my mind in a new and exciting way, so I hope it's useful to you too. Before we get to that choir of angels moment I had, we have to start with a children's biblical song. If you're familiar with it, you'll for sure know what it is based on the title of this episode. If you're not familiar with it and you're wondering what in the world I'm talking about, in the Bible, in Matthew chapter 7, there's a parable about a wise man who built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not. And there's also a foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. The children's song about this Bible story says, "The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down, and the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood still. The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down, and the floods came up, and the house on the sand washed away." It is probably one of the very first songs I ever learned the lyrics to, so it's very much a part of who I am, and is automatically called to mind whenever someone talks about building something on a firm foundation. You're aware that before you construct a building, before the foundation can even be laid, first the lot has to be graded. The site has to be leveled and tested for compaction. It needs to be really solid so major settling doesn't end up cracking the structure. Then trenches are dug and footings are poured over a rebar skeleton to keep everything immovable. After all that, the ground is prepared for the slab to be poured. Plumbing pipes are run underground and stubbed into their proper location, and a shield can be put in place to prevent radon gas from leaching into the building. Then the slab is poured. After it has had proper time to cure, the construction site is cleaned up in preparation for the framing crew to come in and start building the skeleton of the structure. There's an old saying that if you want to see how tall a building is going to be, look at how deep they're digging the foundation. It's true, right? Massively tall buildings require seriously well-engineered, deep foundations. I'm not sure how many songs there are about building houses, but a quick Google search leads me to believe that there are quite a few. Are you old enough to remember those TV commercials for those greatest hit CD collections? Imagine owning all of the world's greatest construction songs. Time Life presents the Ultimate Construction Songs Collection. 36 beautiful songs. Get the Ultimate Collection on 2 CDs for just $26.99 plus shipping and handling. But wait, call now and we'll take $10 off. That's right, you get 2 CDs for just $16.99. I'm telling you, this could be a thing. There's even a song called The House Building Song by David Ferguson. It has a banjo and a harmonica, so you know it's good. As far as songs about houses being able to weather storms, in addition to The Wise Man and the Foolish Man, there's The Bones by Maren Morris. You know this one. When the bones are good, the rest don't matter. Yeah, the paint could peel, the glass could shatter, Baby, I know any storm we're facing will blow right over while we stay put. The house don't fall when the bones are good. In talking about storms blowing, Byron Katie says, quote, "What's happening is happening, and no amount of wishing on our end is going to make it any different in that moment. So why not take a deep breath and reflect on the following. How do I know that the wind should blow? Because it's blowing. Do not argue with reality. You'll lose, but only 100% of the time." End quote. You've probably heard that before. It's a classic, but still a good reminder. If you argue with reality, you'll lose, but only 100% of the time. Byron Katie has a book called Loving What Is. She talks a lot about what the ancient Stoics also taught, that one of the keys to a good life is to accept things exactly as they are, to have what you want and what you love to be what you have right now. In her book, Byron Katie also says the only time we suffer is when we believe a thought that argues with what is. When the mind is perfectly clear, what is what we want, end quote. In keeping with our construction theme here, in this same book, Byron Katie says that your mind is like a carpenter's level. You know that level tool that has the little bubble floating inside? If you're telling yourself that a situation should be one way or shouldn't be another way, that's the bubble floating to the left or to the right. Get the bubble to the center. This is extremely important when pouring a foundation. It needs to be level. You get your level's bubble to the center by loving what is. Way back in episode 6, we talked about loving yourself the way you are, even if your goal is to change. When you're working on changing yourself, you need to start with loving yourself exactly the way you are right now. Make changes because you love yourself, not because you hate yourself or are somehow deserving of punishment for being less than you wish you were. Do not believe that you'll love yourself once you become the person you want to become. That's some BS right there. Don't believe it for a second. If you don't love yourself now, you won't love yourself then. If you don't accept yourself now, you'll find a reason not to accept yourself then. If you're even able to achieve your goal while fueled by negativity, which is harder and much less enjoyable to do. Having inspiring goals is awesome, but don't go after them because you think you'll be a more worthy person once you achieve them, or that you'll be able to love your life once it's different. If you can't appreciate yourself and your life now, you won't be able to once you have achieved what you want to achieve either. There are many unfortunate examples of this in Hollywood. People who have it all and are more deeply troubled than people who have next to nothing. I know this. I've talked about it in the past. I thought I got it. Make changes because you love yourself the way you are. It's a great rule to live by. Here's the sort of epiphany moment I had the other day. I was on a coach training with Optimize's head coach, Michael. He was casually going through some stuff that's helpful when coaching your clients to close the gap between who they're capable of being and who they're actually being, which is my job description as a certified Optimize coach. And he made kind of an offhand comment that you need to love what is, Byron Katie style. Accept and love and have gratitude for everything that is in every single moment, because that is what creates the foundation for what can be. He went on talking about whatever he was talking about, but I was like, OMG. I thought I got it before, but actually, it's so simple. The little girl in me knows the profoundly simple truth that the foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came down, and the floods came up, and the house on the sand washed away. Dreaming and making goals and constructing all the amazing possibilities for your life, no matter how clearly you can see them and how committed you are to working on them, if they're constructed atop a foundation of dissatisfaction with yourself and wishing things were different than they are, is building on a sandy foundation. When the rains descend and the floods come and the winds blow and beat upon your house, as they inevitably will, it's called life, your house will fall, and great will be the fall of it. If we instead start with properly grading and leveling the lot and testing for compaction by being profoundly grateful for everything we've been blessed with, then digging and pouring footings in preparation for the slab to be poured by accepting ourselves and our circumstances as they are, and protecting, pouring, and properly curing the slab by truly loving who we are and everything as it is right now, We're all set up to construct the most amazing infrastructure of possibilities for our future. And when the rains descend and the floods come and the winds blow and beat upon that house, as they inevitably will, the house will stand, because the house don't fall when the bones are good. And the bones can only be good when they're built on a carefully engineered foundation. What do you think you can do to more scrupulously engineer your foundation? Are there things about yourself that you struggle to accept? What can you do about that? What's one small step you can take to move in the right direction? Is there a circumstance that you believe you can only love once it changes? What's one small thing you can love about it exactly the way it is now? Do you ever argue with reality? Does the bubble of your level ever tip to the right or to the left? How deep are you going to lay your foundation? Do you want it to be at ground level? 8 feet deep? What about 55 feet and 8 inches deep? That's how deep the Empire State Building's foundation is. It takes more work to dig that deep, but the possibilities of what can be are so much higher if you put in the work to dig a deep foundation. What about a foundation 164 feet deep, made of 110,000 tons of concrete? That's the foundation of the Burj Khalifa. 163 floors of exciting possibilities for your life, including having Tom Cruise grab onto you with a suction glove. You never know. I hope this talk about having a firm foundation has been helpful for you. I challenge you to find ways to be both grateful for what is and excited for what can be, to see that those dreams and possibilities can weather the storm if they're secured to a deep and firm foundation. As always, thank you so much for your time and attention. I know it's valuable, and I promise I don't take it lightly. Next week, we're going to talk about too much protein. Until then, don't build your house upon the sand, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.